and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of Twilight 2000 Hostile Waters from Free League Publishing. This is written by Tomas Harenstam and Chris Leitz, with artwork provided by Eric Kubicki and Nicholas Brandt. Do apologize if I mispronounced any of those names. This box set is available now. It carries an MSRP of $39.99, which includes the PDF if you order from Free League Publishing, or you can grab just the PDF alone for $19.99 over at DriveThruRPG. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Hostile Waters for Twilight 2000. Few things to mention before we jump on in. First of all, my friends over at Free League Publishing were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page inside the book, but I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside Hostile Waters. Also, there are adventure plots involved in the book. So if you're a player and your game master has picked up Hostile Waters, just hasn't started running it, maybe they're talking about picking this up, by all means, I would definitely recommend tune out now. You don't want any of the surprises ruined simply because you watched this review. But keep in mind, if your game master is considering picking this up, let them know about this video. That way they can approach this and make a far more informed buying decision. All right, so let's talk about what's inside this box. First off, we've got a deck of, I want to say 26 new encounters that you can add to your encounter deck. And of course, you can seed your deck based on the number of the card. So as an example, some events are US related. You'll run across former NATO forces. Others you'll run across former Soviet forces, animals, and so forth. So of course, Hostile Waters is all watercraft related. So talking about rivers and even ocean going vessels, because as you can see, we've got some really cool maps, some battle maps essentially. So this is a nuclear sub. We'll get into more of that. But as you can see, these are really, really nice. This is the interior of the USS Maine, an Ohio class boomer. So these are really well put together and really nice card stock for these. These are paper, but they are treated, so these will hold up really well also. So I definitely like that. So we've got quite a few of these because we do have scenario settings. We have adventure plots and so forth. So we also get a punch board of counters with watercraft, damage side right there. And we also get a poster map of an area of Poland as well as an area of Sweden, because Twilight 2000 has two default settings, this 4th edition at least. It is Poland for the most part and Sweden. Pretty cool. So here is the book for Hostile Waters. This clocks in at about 104 pages, if I remember correctly. We are going to have some new rules regarding watercraft combat on the water. Now, we're not talking about huge naval battles or anything like that, but we are going to get into a bit of a history of watercraft in Europe. So one of the interesting things about Twilight 2000 and the setting is there has been a nuclear war. It's been relatively limited. So it's not as if everybody's been wiped out. Although huge chunks of population are gone. But it's interesting because the world has been thrown back into sort of a dark age, sort of almost like a medieval period, because now highways and vehicles and aircraft are not reliable anymore. There aren't many of them left in working order. But as far as watercraft, you can build your own boat, you can build your own sails. So now the waterways of Europe have become far more important, both as means of transportation and trade, but also because so many water supplies have been polluted either by nuclear fallout or disease. So it's really, really wild. So we do get some new rules about water combat, keeping in mind that this is a role playing game. So we are not looking at very heavy tactical rules for water combat. We get some new vehicles, which of course are watercraft, anywhere from small tugs all the way up to patrol boats. And we will also see the Ohio class nuclear submarine a bit later. So we get our water encounters, which coincide with our deck. So we have got that. They're pretty interesting. I do like them quite a bit. But then again, as far as the Twilight 2000 releases to this point, I always find the encounters to be pretty interesting. I do dig it. And there's a nice array of them. It isn't like they're all combat. They're not all, oh, here comes something bad. No, not at all. We'll get some new factions, including the Pirates of the Vistula, because this is built upon the old Twilight 2000 supplement, Pirates of the Vistula. So we've got information about that. There are also ties to Ruins of Warsaw and Return to Warsaw, which are also original adventures for the first edition of Twilight 2000. There are references to the upcoming Operation Reset, which is going to be a box set adventure, as far as I understand. That is going to utilize some of the content that was in Ruins of Warsaw and Return to Warsaw. So you've got the Baron that you have to concern yourself with. So as far as the encounters and our plots, there are references to especially Operation Reset, that if you are planning on utilizing that when it comes out, then you might want to be holding off maybe on some of these plots that tie into that. We saw the same with the urban operations. There were some plot lines there that also kind of tie into Operation Reset. I do understand that Operation Reset is going to have a little bit of a science fiction sort of vibe to it. So if you are running more of a kind of strictly historical styled campaign for Twilight 2000, you might actually steer away from that and just ignore any sort of references that have to do with Operation Reset. So as far as the various different scenarios that we've got in here, these plots, they're pretty cool. I especially like two of them. One is with this tugboat that the player characters can find themselves on, as well as the plot line involving the USS Maine, which is one of the last, if not possibly the last, surviving ballistic nuclear submarine in the U.S. fleet. So I thought that was pretty cool. We also have a faction as far as the 6th Fleet for the U.S. I thought that was kind of cool. There's a plot line with the player characters, if they're from NATO forces, if they're Americans trying to get back home to America. Keeping in mind, that was a big plot line in the first edition of Twilight 2000. As the series went along, they did start tackling what was going on in the United States. I think that might be on the horizon for fourth edition Twilight 2000. So that would be cool. But as far as the main goes, the player characters start hearing rumors about the USS Maine surviving. I will point out that it's kind of obvious that Free League Publishing doesn't have like a military consultant for Twilight 2000. I would like to see them get one on board because some of the things in the Twilight 2000 releases just don't make sense sometimes. Because remember, Free League Publishing is trying to model a post-nuclear setting, but this is out after a limited nuclear war. And I'll give you an example. It's explained that on the USS Maine, there are 7 warheads remaining. Now, as far as the missiles that would be on a boomer, you're looking at, they would usually carry each missile anywhere from about 3 to 6 warheads. So in the plot line for the USS Maine, there's discussion of missiles being launched at Washington, D.C. and Moscow. But the thing is, they don't talk about how many missiles are left in the sub. They talk about warheads, where they should be talking about missiles, because the warheads need delivery systems to work. And it says there's 7 warheads left. It just doesn't feel right. It seems off. Because if I remember correctly, I think that the Ohio class could carry 14 ballistic missiles. And each, once again, one of those could carry up to 6 warheads, which could be deployed to different locations, so different targets. So I know I'm kind of nitpicking, but it's just an example of some of the things that kind of pop up from time to time in Twilight 2000. So we're going to wrap up with an appendix talking about the Vistula and the river itself. And then the canal that I am not even going to attempt to try to pronounce is our other appendix. Because, of course, this is the Poland setting. This is the Swedish setting. So very cool. All right. Just give you a quick peek through the rest, and we'll wrap up with an index. And that is a look to see what you find inside the box set for Hostile Waters for 4th edition, Twilight 2000 from Free League Publishing. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts and give this a review score. So far, I have really liked all of the Twilight 2000 releases that have come from Free League Publishing for this 4th edition. But I do have to say, I'm kind of surprised we're not seeing Free League Publishing move away from previously published content for Twilight 2000. So what we've seen so far, and of course, mechanically, the rule system which powers this 4th edition of Twilight 2000 is completely different than the GDW version of Twilight 2000, obviously enough. And the 4th edition actually uses a tweaked Gear Zero engine, which instead of using just 6-sided dice, it uses a variety of different dice sizes. But in essence, pretty similar in execution. But the thing is, we just keep seeing content come out from Free League Publishing, which tweaks a lot of the original GDW content. But we're really not seeing Free League Publishing just branch out and go their own way with their version of the post apocalypse following the limited nuclear war. And I find that kind of disappointing. And I know that is a critique that some people do have with this fourth edition of Twilight 2000 is outside of the mechanics and the more sandboxy approach to role playing that this takes, that it's just kind of rehashing old material that's been around for decades. So I do kind of see that point. Also, once again, as I mentioned, sometime some of the military aspects of Twilight 2000 seem to be off a bit. As I mentioned, I don't think they have a military advisor of any sort working with them on Twilight 2000. I would like to see that. Now, of course, there is plenty jam packed inside this Hostile Waters box, plenty of plot lines and scenario sites to keep the players occupied for quite a long time. All in all, there's 4 kind of short campaigns you can put together out of the various different plot lines. 2 of them I think are very cool. The other 2 are fine. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They just don't jump out at me. So there is that. And of course, there are the tie-ins to the upcoming Operation Reset box set, which I am curious about as well. All in all, I definitely do recommend Hostile Waters for Twilight 2000. And on a score of 0 to 10, I give Hostile Waters a 7.5 out of 10. Once again, I would like to see Free League Publishing branch out and do their own thing as opposed to just kind of porting over the major plot lines from first edition Twilight 2000. But all in all, this is still a pretty cool release. That is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs live at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.